This episode is brought to you by Privilege, because four white guys should be able to have a podcast.
I don't care what Bo Burnham says. It's fine.
All right. This is Super Neutral Bros episode 1, the pilot. I'm Eric.
I'm Jared.
We don't know who you're pointing out to, but I'm Zach.
I'm Jordan.
Eric.
We already went through all of
I'm just pointing.
So, get into Super Neutral Bros. I have seen every episode beginning to end. Jordan, yourself?
Oh my God, you've seen a lot. I think I've seen up to like season 9. I want to say it's either season 5 or season 9. I don't remember. It's been a long time. It's
Only 100 episode difference.
There's a big gap in my knowledge. I don't know.
What did I do with those 4 years of my life? Was I married? Was I?
I think the last time I watched it was like 2005, maybe, or 2015. 2005.
It was one of the
Jordan
five.
Don't worry, Jordan's the one uploading all the information and will be keeping the schedule for the uploads. So if you're wondering if we're going to have a consistent release, you could just guess.
We won't.
It ended in 5.
Zach, how about yourself?
Yeah, go ahead,
Jordan.
My experience with Supernatural is almost literally zero. Never seen an episode. Don't think I ever accidentally watched one on TV. Wasn't even interested in it. I'll be providing the neutral perspectives. Yeah, I don't even think I've seen it. I don't think I've ever seen a clip on TikTok of it. I've seen clips of the guys, the actors outside of the show, but I have zero exposure to this. So,
well, after your computer and phone listen to you, I bet you get a lot more TikTok clips.
yeah, I'm probably gonna get those rolling in now.
myself. I actually found out today just because I logged back on and I started watching it, and I was on season 2, episode 10, so about midway through season 2. So I have the second least amount.
Or maybe the second most, depending on how much. Maybe episode 5 is what Jordan actually got to.
Yeah, who knows?
There's a 5 in it somewhere for him.
5 in there.
There's 2 dudes and a bunch of other stuff. That's all I got.
Also, Jordan's porn history search.
So, we want to talk about why we're doing this podcast. Pretty much why are we going to go through and try and step by step watch every single episode and break down at least a little bit of what's going on in every single episode?
Basically, because it was the only neutral subject we had.
Yeah, and even it's kind of not a neutral one, as Eric's watched the whole series, but it's the one that the other 3 of us have not a whole lot of background on. Kind of looking at like some other shows, you know, all of us kind of have a show that we go with that's kind of our background one. I know lately, yeah. Lately, for a few of us, it's been a little bit more anime, but or just shows. I think that this one is the most neutral one that we can kind of give our thoughts on, discuss on, and kind of just have a little bit of fun with it.
And even if I've seen the whole thing, I only watched each episode once. It wasn't like I was like obsessed and went back and rewatched episodes. I just watched them as they kind of came out. I would be a lapsed fan for a year and a half, go back and watch like a season in a blur, and things would get blurry.
Exactly. Yep.
We're all the way back at the pilot.
And I think that brings a good perspective, having like someone who's seen them all, and then Zach hasn't seen shit. So I mean, it's kind of a good balance.
We
I
have
think.
two ends of the
And
spectrum
then
there,
me
so
and Jared are kind of in the middle somewhere.
I'm at the very close to the beginning, middle, but yes.
Close to the beginning. I'm a little further in, probably.
He had a brain aneurysm and just lost all context of where he was at.
It was a rough year, man.
I have been here before, but I do not recognize this.
I have no recollection of this place.
No recollection of this.
Well, just follow your nose. Doesn't really work on Netflix.
And I think it's kind of interesting now that Jensen is getting more of a following again because of The Boys. It's interesting to go back and see him in this very first episode.
Where he looks like a
However many
child?
years ago. Yes. I mean, this was in 2005, so we're talking 17 years ago.
You're telling me
Fuck, we're
Dean
gonna die soon.
is in The Boys? Was he in the first,
Yeah.
Was he in the first episode?
Eventually,
No, he's
Oh,
not
okay.
in first season. No.
Okay.
Jordan's seen the first episode, and
I've seen
he's like,
episode
wait,
one.
did I miss him?
Like, holy shit! What happened?
he was the girlfriend on the curb.
Oh, no. All right, and that actually kind of goes
He's
into
a
the
pretty
next thing I want
man.
to talk about. As we get into this, this is going to be more adult content, and there are going to be spoilers for not only probably this show, but other social
show.
media, anything, because we are going to probably we're going to relate stuff to a lot of other stuff. So that's going to be our spoiler warning going ahead.
We'll try to keep it over a month or a week or a year. It won't be.
Right, we're not going to talk about things that were on last night.
Bruce Willis was dead.
The
You
whole
can't
time.
say that about him.
You gotta give some reference, like Sixth Sense.
At the end of
Just like
Armageddon.
in general. Bruce Willis
It
is
was
dead.
a sled. It was a sled from when he was a kid.
Oh my god. Alright,
Pilot.
so starting off on this very first episode, you open up, and it looks like a farmhouse, but later in the episode you'll see that it's kind of in a town. Watching it again, I kind of got the sense that it was supposed to be an old Foursquare farmhouse.
Wait, you're going all the way. Are you jumping all the way to like the actual main event? Or are you going to start off with the fact that it starts off 22 years ago and their mom fucking?
Well, that's what at the beginning of the episode. That's what I
Okay.
said. The beginning of the episode.
Oh.
So it does do a flashback, 22 years, and they're in the old house, and it's starting off with Sam and Dean being young at the time. And
That was not
Go
my
ahead.
my very first thought on the opening cut was again I don't even Supernatural. I assume the show's about supernatural things, but beyond that, I had no other notions coming in. The opening sequence there, panning into the house, I was like, "Oh, this is like X-Files." Immediately,
you get that
immediately
feeling.
got those vibes.
Mm-hmm. And you're gonna definitely get that
Sexual
kind of
tension
throughout.
between the two main characters.
Mm-hmm. So it starts off, and you're introduced to the mother, and then the main man, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, walks in.
Talk about the fact that Negan is in this goddamn show.
Right, exactly. I mean, and he is looking relatively young. This is 17 years ago. But you can kind of tell that he's there, but I don't know. When I watched it again, I kind of almost got a sense that he's there, but he isn't, because after they put him to bed, she wakes up in the middle of the night. She's not surprised that he isn't in bed.
Okay. I'm not a parent. The scene where she goes down the stairs and she sees him asleep on the fucking chair and realizes the person upstairs is with her baby is not her husband. It's a creepy moment for sure, but as a parent, does that moment like hit more?
Mortifying.
It is. I mean, so
Sheer
let's back up just a
terror.
little bit. She wakes up, she hears the baby monitor, and the first thing I notice is it's not a regular baby monitor sound. I've had baby monitor, and yes, this is an older version, but you hear static with it first. So in my mind, something's going off. That's not supposed to. You hear the baby cry, but you also hear static.
Maybe you just have a poor person's baby monitor. She looked pretty wealthy. See that house?
Good.
I'm pretty familiar with static on a baby monitor. That didn't worry me.
Okay. Well, and then yes, so she walks in the room. She sees a male figure holding the baby. I believe that she asks, "Does he need milk?" or something like that, and the figure just shushes her. So then she sees a light flicker, walks down the end of the hallway, hears the TV, walks down the stairs, and that's where she notices that her actual husband is asleep in the chair. Now, what I didn't understand is that she just sprints back upstairs. She doesn't say anything. In that moment,
There wasn't time.
in that moment, I would be yelling at
had
him.
The kid was not her husband.
Right.
What bothered me in that scene was the guy holding the kid. I was looking. I couldn't tell if he was wearing a leather duster
It looked
because
like
of
a
the
duster.
collar,
Right.
or a robe. And I'm like, okay, it's gotta be a robe, but it looks like he's wearing a trench coat.
He's just.
And I was like, if a man's holding your baby in a trench coat, I don't care if it is your husband. You go in and check.
You go and you get that baby from
You investigate the situation.
Like, why the fuck do you have
Why-
a trench coat on right now?
Where did he get a trench coat?
That's creepy as hell.
Why is he
Get
wearing
out
it in
of
the
here.
middle of the night?
Also, so obviously we get the run back in, and then the fire.
Well,
Oh, that's right.
No.
We get him go up the stairs.
because he hears her
Yeah,
scream and
yeah,
he
he
runs
hears the
upstairs,
scream.
and he walks in and there's nothing. He doesn't even worry about her after she
Down
screams.
way too fast. Just immediately call up like, oh, I guess I just made
The
that.
baby's right
Yeah,
there. Everything's
and the baby's
cool.
fine. And he starts talking to the baby, and then drip, drop blood. He touches it, sees her on the ceiling, belly cut wide open. And then she lights on fire.
Fucked up way to go.
Yep. He grabs the baby, hands it off to the older brother, tells them to get out of the house. And then
Now, Eric, this is where I want to jump in. As a parent, I would never hand a baby to a 5-year-old to run down the stairs. That was the scariest part of this opening scene for me. Was there's no way he
Trusting
just
that
dropped
little
that kid.
snot-nosed kid
I've
to
met
take care of
5-year-olds.
baby.
He's gonna drop that baby down the stairs. That was the only. I lost it at that point. I was like, you can't hand him off like that. I wouldn't trust it.
Unwatchable.
unbelievable.
Can't watch it.
I mean, obviously it happened, but just. I guess it's crisis mode at that point. Your wife's on the ceiling on fire. You have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was going to do in there.
That's a game time
Obviously nothing,
decision.
because he ran out 2 seconds later. He
Although-
decided pretty quickly he was done.
That's bad editing, where it's like the whole room fills with fire, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's just running out the front door, and then you see the fiery explosion.
He's like,
Yeah.
I'm no firefighter, but this is a lost cause. I'm out.
I think this is a total loss.
That's-
Oh, no. Am I
At
wrong?
that point, cut it.
I want to express to everyone that Eric's opinions are his own. I'm not going to lose my job over this podcast. They are of his own, and he is
Not endorsed by anyone else here.
anyone else in this
Actually,
podcast.
actively
Except for Budweiser.
disputed.
Except
For an
for
ice cold
Bud Light.
Bush Light. Bush Light. It makes you tell the truth. That'll be for the Patreons only, that part.
Yeah.
So, he gets him out of the house. We get to cut to 22 years later.
And it goes directly to which brother?
Sam.
Sam. Mhm.
Before this, my one other issue with the opening scene there is maybe we see this in the future again. I don't know. How was the father not arrested on the spot? You got a dead wife in a burning house.
Well, I'm wondering, was she still stuck to the ceiling? They don't ever really say it. Because, if she's stuck to the ceiling, they're going to be like, okay, that's just freaking weird.
First he glued
I
her
just
to
expected
ceiling,
the
then
next
he
scene
lit
to
her
be
on
like
fire.
the police station of
Sick
where he's getting
bastard.
booked, because Oh, hey, you were in your house alone with your 2 small children, and your wife is dead, and the house is on fire. We've seen that before, and we know what happened. So go ahead and hop in the cell.
That's not even the one that I'm worried about. It's the one that happens later that we'll discuss that I want to bring that point back up.
Well, we don't have to go in linear order. We can talk about it now.
Oh, well. Okay, we can. That's fine.
It's kind of the parallels.
Yeah. Ending of the episode. Same thing happens to Sam's girlfriend. Same exact thing.
She was a fucking dime piece, too.
Yeah, but the thing is
also,
what I didn't like about that is he's okay, Dean forces him out, but that whole time when he was standing there, he's just laying on the bed, tossing side to side. He's not trying to jump up and touch her or anything. But then Dean forces him out. Then afterwards, when we get the cut afterwards, after you know that she's gone, he's just loading. It says, and of course I still have subtitles on because my wife can't hear anything without subtitles.
My subtitles. I can't hear without my subtitles.
I can't hear.
And it says rifle loads, and it's obviously a double barrel shotgun.
Unwatchable. Can't do it.
And he throws it up. And I'm like,
this podcast is over now.
We need to pick a new show. This is not going to work.
But then, there's cops, there's firefighters, and he's just loading a gun 10 feet away.
Let's fucking go.
Well, look at that guy. He clearly didn't do this.
So Dean clearly drove away, right?
We can just call our day over.
Instantly, boom, fire. He kicks the door open and he's there. Like, where the fuck was he just waiting?
The thing is Dean just has a way of being there. He does it earlier in the show when he saves Sam from the white woman. Where he just shows up and he just starts shooting with the gun 8 miles outside of town when he was in he just runs
listen,
8 miles in 15 minutes.
What you just seen was seen about 3 minutes before that, where he just sit there by the edge of the house, like he's gonna get in his house eventually. He just, oh, son of a bitch.
Oh my god.
Oh god, it's a long way.
I'm just hoping that, like, in the background, the writer's like, they'll understand. He's really not a stand-up guy. He probably hotwired a vehicle.
He stole a car.
I got noted here. The fact that they're like, oh yeah, they're still stealing credit cards, huh? Fucking whips out fake IDs all over, just a box full of fake IDs. Like, oh, my brother's in jail. What'll I do? I'll call the small town. I'll call it a shooting. Big 911 call.
So let's get kind of back on track.
Yeah.
So
back to Sam.
After the wife dies, they go 22 years in the future, and Sam is at Stanford University. And he is going to probably the worst college Halloween party I've ever seen in my life. There was no one there. There's like 4 people. And he tells his girlfriend and a friend that he is going to apply for law school at Stanford.
So that he doesn't like Halloween.
And that he doesn't like Halloween. And he didn't even want to go.
Also, I gotta know something. So she starts off in the nurse's outfit. You never see his girlfriend normally dressed the entire time. She's either in that skimpy nurse's outfit or half naked at home. And that is it. That's the only outfits you get to see her in.
And there's the male eyes for our podcast. Thank you, Eric.
I'm just saying, it's a little fucked up. You can tell some early 2000s shit where they're like,
it's a pilot. You got to sell the show, man.
Yeah, very true. And then Dean,
I don't know if you know
Dean even comments on the skimpy outfit too.
Yes, where he just immediately starts hitting on his brother's girlfriend.
Yes.
I love Smurfs.
No shame.
So after the Halloween party, they go back home. Sam hears somebody in the house when they're asleep. He gets up, he sees a figure walk by, and immediately in my head, and it's been a while since I watched that first episode, I'm like, I can't remember. Is this where she gets splayed alive? Or not, since we get a shadowy figure? And so then him and Dean do a hand-to-hand fight. All of a sudden, girlfriend wakes up, he introduces him to her.
What kind of martial arts was that they were using? Does anybody know?
Huh? It wasn't judo. Or no, it might have been judo. It wasn't jiu-jitsu.
Very choreographed strikes. I was just curious. Like, obviously they've had
strikes
like,
and then throws using body weight.
You know, they know Hapkido, or like
Mhm.
these guys are they're Krav Maga. I could see them being Krav Maga guys. That was a Marine, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It
Maybe
definitely
it's just
wasn't
Marine training. I don't.
Dane
I was just
Cook of
curious if
martial
that comes
arts.
up at some point where it's like this is our style. Like, you know,
Maybe it will.
most
I couldn't
most
tell you if
ghosts
it did.
can't counter this type of karate. So
So he tells him that his dad's on a hunting trip and he hasn't heard from him in a couple of days. He's very vague about it because he doesn't want to give it away to the girlfriend that they hunt monsters and ghosts.
So, one thing I want to bring up about this show that I think is really cool, most shows like this will be like, oh, here's this other world that you don't know about. Here's a character who's never heard about this world. We're going to show you this world through their eyes. This show is like, fuck you. These people have been doing this for a long time, and it's normal to them. You just have to kind of pick it up as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And you really get a sense of that when they break into the dad's hotel room later. That they've been trained, they recognize everything that he's doing, they recognize the salt, they recognize all the stuff that he's doing. And along with that, they've been trained to know when he's giving them details, like when the sheriff gives Dean the journal and there is the location in the journal. So he decides to go with him before his interview. And Sam decides to go with Dean before his interview, and they head to another part of California. They're at Stanford University. I can't remember the town, but it's in California. No, that they
Stanford,
go
California.
Stanford, California.
to. No, that they go to where the dad is.
It's some small hunky ass town.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the Iowa episodes. You guys are going to just fucking really appreciate how wrong they get that.
Probably all just.
Well, I actually I did a little I looked up some stuff today, and this is it's a pilot episode. It's the only episode that's filmed outside of
Vancouver.
Ontario. Yeah, Vancouver. It's the only episode. Every single other episode is filmed in Vancouver, in or near Vancouver.
So they're going to stick to X-File vibes the whole way through.
You're going to get dreary type, yeah, probably. Well,
X-Files was mostly filmed in Vancouver too. So just like your sets, your scenes, most of that. I mean, you can do whatever you need to, but like the crux of it is you'll have some similar.
Yes.
Cool.
So So then it cuts to what I would consider, in my mind, the scariest part of the whole episode. You get a young man driving a shitty car. He's on the phone with
Rabbit, I believe.
Yes. Hey, he's on his way home. He talks to his girlfriend on the phone. No, I can't come over. I have work in the morning. And then all of a sudden he sees this girl dancing on the side of the road.
I want to interject here for a moment.
Go ahead.
Jordan, you're notoriously the biggest coward of the bunch.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I would like you to walk us through this scene. If I may.
Well, he sees this girl just kind of doing her thing on the side of the road. He hangs up with his girlfriend, and he pulls over, and he's like, and what does she say? I don't know. She
did her line. Take me home.
Take me home.
Take me home.
And he's like, okay, get in. And she gets in, and then at some point, she like whispers to him, like, come home with me. Or what does she say? Something like that, like, come home with me. All like sexy. And he's like, oh, hell yeah.
And she also lifts her like dress up her leg as she's saying it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have let her in the car too.
And the thing is when I the first time
I literally wrote a note.
But
I literally wrote a note that says, "Yeah, I'd let her in too."
Oh my God.
I like the notes. But so for me, living where we all grew up in a rural, non very populated area. That could easily happen. like
A
dragging
girl by the
along.
road.
But
Yeah.
something along the side of the road that makes you stop, and that is why that for me is the scariest part of the episode, because like just that turning out to be something bad.
That's one of the things we're going to talk about on some of these, probably scariest parts of episodes. For me, it's the scene where Sam is just driving, and all of a sudden, just it cuts, and she's just standing in front of the car, staring at him, and she blows through. Like the jump scare, like that's the one that got me the most. How about you two up there?
I think
You can either say scariest or favorite. I mentioned that in our notes.
starting
but-
into the show, just the mom walking down the stairs at the very intro at the flashback, the music was very on cue for like what was going on, and me coming into this not knowing what I'm coming into, I'm just getting hinted in like, oh, this has scary elements with the light flicker and stuff. I was like, okay, so there's some stuff, and then the music builds as she's going down the stairs. Like that to me, that might have been just because I didn't know what I was walking into. What was scary to me, because I'm like, oh, my mind starts running. I'm like, I have no idea how far this is going to go right now, because I don't know anything about this show, but we're setting some. I'll figure out where we're going. But the music cueing in, I wasn't. I guess I wasn't expecting it to be focused on the horror elements. I was guessing more of
Action-y?
Or the X-Files style, where it's more about learning about the mystery.
Yeah.
X-Files more about the mystery and more procedural.
I'm not gonna lie, Zach. I thought that your scariest part would be the 5-year-old carrying down the baby down the stairs.
number two. If it was my 5-year-old, yeah, that would have been the scariest part. I was like, maybe based on what Dean has done, based on what Dean did in the episode, I'm guessing him as a 5-year-old displayed some skills and talents that would enable you to say, I trust this boy,
Right.
baby.
What's worse than
not
rapist?
every parent would think the same, but
What about you, Jordan?
Favorite slash scariest.
I was gonna. My first thing that I thought of was like that first scene, like Zach said, the when you first see the mom on the ceiling, like the music and everything was like perfect. It was like I'd obviously seen it before, but it'd been a long time, and for me that was like super creepy. Just
2005, 2015.
2005, 15, whatever, you know. but then you hear it's like the build up to with the music, and like then you see the mom's like dead looking face there, and everything's on fire. And I don't know, that was really creepy for me. But then I think the creepiest part is probably with the girl when the guy picked up the girl on the side of the road and all, and then he got massacred. That was probably the actual scariest.
Let's kind of on the further end of that part. His death at the end, or just suddenly just boom, blood splatter in the window. Great kill, like.
But then the cops get there and there's no footprints, no fingerprints. They say nothing, and you can't see if there's blood or not. So did they call in a John Wick style cleanup for the ghost afterwards, or what?
I'm thinking that's the idea. Is like the guy disappeared. There's blood, but there's no other markings.
Okay,
I think that's the idea, because
I was mostly curious about the biomechanics of how you get blood to splatter in almost 360 degrees. I saw it hit like 3 windows. Did she crush his head and it just popped like a balloon?
That or like you saw later when she attacks Sam,
yeah, she had the claws.
Her fingers are going in. Does it just explode out?
May.
She
She's
did the
like pierced his heart and
right.
Some little Indiana Jones.
I just in watching it, I was like, I can't quite. I was like, unless she popped his head, I don't know how that worked. But I guess it's probably the heart thing. Yeah.
So then you see that, and then they're on their way, and you get the first sense that they. This isn't a job that they're doing to make a ton of money. They're doing it pretty much in vengeance of their mother. They were taught by their father, because you get background on that a little bit earlier in the episode where he's talking about, I was scared. I told Dad I was scared of something underneath my bed, and he gave me the 45. And he's like, yeah, you should be scared of something underneath the bed. He says, I was 9. You're supposed to tell him that, you shouldn't be scared of the dark. Or, you don't need to be scared of the dark. No, you should be scared of the dark. That's what Dean tells him. So they have this, they have this background. They know that they've been trained. So it's not like, some shows where they don't give a background on how these people have been trained or anything. And then all of a sudden they're just kicking ass and taking names on stuff. So they arrive, on the scene, and automatically he pulls out federal agent badges.
With a box full of other fake IDs.
Yes. Passports, fake IDs, sheriff's badges, everything. And they walk up and they pretty much fool the sheriff into talking about it a little bit, telling him about it, because they know that there has been multiple disappearances like this over the years. What was it, 10 in the last 20 years, they said. And then as they're leaving, the FBI shows up. And that is where we get our sense that this is, kind of like the X-Files, because they do a call to X-Files. As they're walking away, Dean.
That was my confirmation. He goes,
it's a little subtle.
I was like, okay, so they're not. So this isn't an accident. This is very much an intentional,
right. Wait, and
we know what this show did. We're gonna take the parts we like and use it. And I think they use those elements very well, because honestly, with the Monster of the Week episodes and the way they run that stuff, the parallels are going to get drawn either way. You might as well use what you have and acknowledge it.
And as they're walking by,
that was great.
As they're walking by, Dean calls them the X-File agents' names.
Yeah, Mulder, Scully.
Yeah. Calls them both that, and then they continue walking. And then you get the brotherly fighting going on. Sam's chewing him out for the way that he was talking to the cops, and Dean's chewing him out for kicking him.
That's one of my favorite things, is the sibling dynamic. The way they're just immediately sniping at each other. Jerk, bitch.
Yeah, they're
backing each other
back and forth. Yeah,
they have a good
giving each other shit
together. Like the actors.
The fact, when they're just like they're going through the cassettes, we got to update your cassettes first. They're cassettes,
right? Yeah. And the thing is you get that feeling that throughout the episode that this isn't, this is 2005. This isn't modern day. I mean, they use maps for coordinates. They are using a library computer, not their own phones, to search up stuff. They're going through all this, and yeah, it's based in 2005, so you kind of get that. Yeah, shoot, in 2005. I didn't even have I did have a phone. That was my first phone. It would be back in those days where you'd accidentally hit the internet button and then you'd be closing out as quickly as possible because you thought it was going to charge your phone money to use the internet.
My one take on the whole thing, which I was very grateful of, was the time period we're in is one with cell phones. Because I think the biggest issue in writing these shows or in explaining plot holes or any of that is, why didn't you just call them right away? And they've got that piece, at least. Going somewhere to look something up, that's research. That can be done any way you want to do it. If it's not on the internet, it could have been in a book. But being that since they have the cell phones there, that I feel like that's the only piece of technology that really matters as far as plot device.
Even earlier in the episode, you get a tape recorder because he records a voicemail.
Using
the tape recorder. Exactly. And so, you get the static or the background noise of the ghost in it, which I thought was interesting. So he must have been with her when the dad made the phone call.
He's around her.
Yeah.
Or around her, or he was, near the house or driving by something.
Because it did it on the guy's cell phone when he was talking to the girlfriend too before he picked her up. There was
static
feedback in that scene, I noticed.
So they figure out, they get an idea that this lady had committed suicide. because her 2 children had drowned.
Jesus, the reveal on that is fucking
Right. So they figure that out, and so then they go to the bridge, and it turns night and day in this show right now. They're jumping around with it a lot. There isn't really a sense of time going because it's just boom, 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 boom.
There was the scene, there's a scene in there I think that you skip where they go and confront. They talk with the girlfriend to get some ideas.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Also, I just want to kind of bring up because we've been around it for a bit, but Dean's vehicle, the Impala, badass.
It is, yeah. It's an iconic vehicle.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I'm gonna give kind of like the established kind of like guy who's watched all the way through the end. One of the 3 consistent things in this show that you'll see as themes are going to be the Impala, where they stay the night, and food. Those things consistently come up in almost every episode.
That makes me so happy. Watching this first episode, my one thought when he drove into the house was, oh my God, if this car doesn't keep showing up, I'm going to lose my mind. This is such a
so he drives in the house, and
it's beautiful, black. I'm in love with it from the start. Seeing the VW Rabbit out of the gate, I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice. And then when they bring this Impala in, I was like, wow, okay, so we've got a guy that knows cars too, which is super, without alluding to it really. Like it's just like he doesn't pull, he's clear this like I like the car, but it's never like let me explain everything about this like they have to with some things. Like no, this car is amazing. I love it. That's all that's important right now.
And when Sam drives the car into the house at the end of it, the first comment after they deal with everything is he goes, "If you damage my car, I'm gonna kill you." And then the next scene, you see that the car is damaged because it has a headlight out, the windshield smash. They didn't lie about that. They left the headlight out to end the show. But so going back, they do the research, they talk to the girlfriend of the guy, they do all that, and then they end up on the bridge, and they get their first instance with what they come to call her the White Lady.
The woman in white.
Woman in white. And when they see her, she jumps. She is reenacting her suicide, and they go and they look and they see if they can find her, and then the Impala turns on. And you can tell, like maybe this has happened or something along these lines has happened before, but Dean is worried because a second later he pulls out the keys. And the Impala tries running them down. I wouldn't say tries too hard because they outrun it for 10 seconds. And if it's pedal to metal, they're going to get run over. But it's a show and it's a pilot.
Well, maybe the ghost doesn't know how to drive stick shift. You ever think of that?
Maybe.
It's an automatic car.
And they jump off. And that jump, to me, gives a background to the different brothers and their styles.
The one jumps over the ledge and holds on, and the one just dives to the river.
And Dean just goes straight in. He's covered in shit. He's covered in mud, and you get the idea that this river is actually almost like a sewage filtration area. Like the town hasn't done.
I've never seen anybody jump into a river and come out as muddy as he did.
Right. Yeah. Unless he's landing on the side or something.
If he survived the land in what was clearly pure mud, because that's the only way you get covered like that.
So they go to the hotel afterwards because they have to get cleaned up, and we jump to that part we already talked about. They find out that Dad has been living there. He's booked for a month. His stuff is still there. He leaves everything there, including clothes and everything. And they knew that he was scared of something because he had salt, and he had salt spread around his bed or in front of the door or something, so that something couldn't get through. Which sounded like
something he doesn't normally do.
Right.
They said something along the lines that he wouldn't do this unless
he was worried. Right.
And with the salt and all the things that keep things away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's when they kind of realize that because in their notes, that's when you realize, oh, it's a woman in white. Like he's got it figured out already.
Yeah.
Which, according to Randy Marsh, would be a spooge drenched blowjob queen.
Oh my god.
It's a spooky ghost.
So they get their own room, or they're in the room, and as Eric says, they do the consistent thing. Dean is going to get food, and when Dean steps out, he sees the two cops there, and they're talking to the hotel
5-0.
manager. Yep, and he calls his brother, tells him 5-0, tells him to get out. And so next scene, they're coinciding pretty much. Dean gets taken to the prison or to the sheriff's office. Sam goes and visits the lady's the former husband. He's still alive.
Let's talk about that guy, because shows are made. I think shows like this are made and broken on their one and done characters or side characters.
Yeah.
That guy's acting is fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
He crushes that scene. His like fucking pain, his hurt, that moment when he turns and he gives the, do you know what a woman in white is? And he kind of explains the lore of it to him, and then he like,
he admits, he admits that I wasn't always the best. So he's admitting that he had done bad things, and the woman in white, they come to explain is it's usually a person who dies because of a lover's pretty much wrongdoing.
always for their children too.
Yeah.
That was the big one.
So as Sam is talking to him, he finds out that his dad had already talked to this guy just a few days before. And, he says that he's also a reporter and that, he's just fact checking the other reporter. Dean is taken to the sheriff's office, and he finds out, he gets the realization that Dad's gone.
My one problem with the guest actor in the spouse spot was, one, the woman in white, way too attractive to be with him. Two, even if he could pull that off, he's got to go for a different woman. Beyond that, like, this dude has skeletons in his closet,
like
which he played
years ago.
You could tell. But I was like, my one issue was looking at this guy. Go, he could not pull this off. Acting wise, he did great, but he did distract a little bit. I'm like, we're looking at some very attractive men here. And you're gonna throw this guy in and be like, well, look at what he's pulling down.
He was so you're saying he was out kicking his coverage, is what you were saying.
Yeah, he outpunted his coverage by a good 30-40 yards there.
That was
from the
25
goal
years
line.
prior. Maybe he was a looker at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that was my other thought. I was trying to constantly remember what time frame that this woman was from, because it wasn't like, obviously it wasn't 100 years ago. It was only like 20 years prior.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe different time, obviously things have changed a little bit, but small town.
Getting back into it. All right. As Sam was interviewing the former husband, Dean is taken to the sheriff's office, and the sheriff is questioning him. Okay, the sheriff believes that they are the ones that are actually abducting these men and murdering. And Dean says, well, with the first one, I would have been 3 years old. Well, and the sheriff, comes back with, well, maybe the older gentleman is teaching you guys how to do it and that type of stuff. So they believe that they're actually murdering these people because they show up, they're fake federal agents, fake credit cards on the hotel, all of that stuff.
The cops never brought that up, though, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
They did? Okay.
Right when Dean talks to him outside the hotel, he brings it up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's questioning that, and he pulls out the dad's journal, and Dean comes to that realization, and all right, Dad's gone. Okay, and he flips to a page, and the sheriff wants to know what the numbers mean. I think it's like 33-111 or something like that.
They just didn't mean coordinates.
Right, they're coordinates, and Dean knows that, but he doesn't tell that to him.
one of the things I think is interesting is that they clearly are like, oh, Dad left his journal. Dad never leaves his journal.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did he leave his journal, he left his journal with a note for Dean.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't contact Dean when he leaves. He just leaves his journal with a note and dips the fuck out.
Because he knows that he's going to follow if he hasn't checked in. And during that interview with the sheriff, Dean gives his another rock reference. Does anybody remember what he says his name is? Eric, don't say it because I know you know. Anybody remember what he says his name is to the sheriff?
Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent.
Yes.
You
He's
get
like,
the sense
I
that
shit
he
my
is,
pants to get out of Vietnam.
yeah.
Here's a question I had. I forgot to bring up earlier. When they were thumbing through the cassettes, he goes, "Oh, Metallica. Was that a Metallica song?"
No, it wasn't. I don't believe it was.
I don't think it. I was like, all right, either A, it's a pilot. Maybe they had to really cheap out, or B, like they say Metallica, and they're like, well, we can't afford a Metallica song. We gotta play something
else. A
else.
Metallica song? Are you crazy?
Because the song they played, I was like, I've never heard this before.
Wait, was it Sam that says Metallica?
He's just
No,
it's
no,
Metallica
no.
that he's listing off. It's the third one.
Sam's listening through things, and Dean goes, "We're listening to Metallica," and he grabs a cassette and he shoves it in the thing.
The driver
and the
chooses
music
the
plays
music.
is
The
no
passenger
Metallica
shuts
song
his
I've ever heard
cable.
in my life before.
So
That's
yeah,
right. That is definitely
It was a
not
deep
Metallica.
cut
You're
because
gonna
that's all they
get
could
rock
afford.
references throughout
Strike
it.
7 on this show. I'm telling you.
Mhm.
I was just curious, like if somebody else knew, like, oh no, it is a Metallica, because it didn't sound like Metallica
I don't think
to
it
me.
was.
So, all of a sudden, as he's getting interviewed, somebody busts into the sheriff's office, says, "We got to go, sheriff. There were shots fired across town." And sheriff recites with questioning Dean, "You got to go to the bathroom?" Dean goes, "No, why?" Puts him in cuffs.
Good.
Yeah, and walk to the table.
Which he thinks this guy is a serial killer who is into like satanic shit, and he thinks, oh, I'm just gonna leave him cuffed to a table, and then we all leave.
Not take him to a cell.
Come on,
Small town. Come on, small town. So then they run out.
He
And
grabs
the
paper
first thing
clip.
the view is
Chris
the paper
Angels
clip.
his way out of there.
Yeah, and he's out, and he's out of it. He's out of the custody before the cops have even
Then he
left.
makes an 8-mile run at top speed for that house
Well,
because
but then he uses a payphone to call Sam, even though he has a cell phone.
I'm guessing they confiscated his cell phone.
He would have had to get it back somehow, unless he just dips and leaves it. But maybe
it's
he
a
does.
burner.
That could be in lockout. Like he grabs the journal.
2005. I think burners have been established by then.
I'm
Right.
sure.
And
He's just
considering
using
he's a
burner
credit
anyway.
card scammer, he'd be up on that too.
So he gives Sam a call, and then it goes to Eric's scariest part, where Sam is driving, talking to him, and he drives to the girl, and he's freaking out, and then all of a sudden he looks in his rearview mirror, and she's sitting there, and she says, "Take me home," because he stopped. He says no, and then
And
the
then she-
door's locked.
And then she fucking rides him.
That's at the house.
Oh, that's right.
So she locks it and starts driving. And at this moment, Dean must just be high-handsing it. World class.
Yes.
Should be in the Olympics
Yes.
with how
I
fast
believe
he's
the term
running.
you're looking for, Eric, is sexually assaults him because he states verbally, "I am not unfaithful to my girlfriend."
You will be. Is what she said.
Oh yeah, that's a
And
bit
then
rapey.
then she goes from gorgeous to fucking scary.
Yeah,
'Cause all the
clearly what
beauty
was
just-
in the
all the-
dirt.
All the
And
beauty.
as she is attacking him, she puts her fingers into his chest, and he's writhing and everything, and he's he's just kind of writhing there, and then all of a sudden, bullets start whizzing into her, and our world-class sprinter / maybe car stealer Dean is firing what looked to me like a 6-shooter, and he shot 9 times into this car window.
Oh, I couldn't see the gun, but I assumed it was.
I thought
some
it
type
was.
of,
I thought
semi-automatic.
it looked kind of like a snub, like a 45 or something. But he fires at her, and she stops for a little bit, and then she goes again, and he fires more, and then he checks on. He says, "Hey, you're right," and he's like, "I'm gonna take you home," is all that Sam says, and he drives the car into the front of the house, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Dear God, it's not scariest, but it is the creepiest part.
It's creepy.
They're in the house, and all of a sudden the water comes down the fucking stairs.
Mhm. She notices where she's at because she couldn't return there. She
She's
couldn't
looking
because
at
of
her
what she did.
picture, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden the fucking kids are up there.
And then she
Alright.
walks to the stairs,
So-
turns around,
unsettling.
they're right
out.
there.
My one thought in seeing those kids at the top of the stairs was they looked to be like what, 7 and 9.
Yeah,
Mhm.
at
Those kids
least.
didn't drown on accident.
But no,
Right.
she definitely, like they said,
Well,
like
yeah.
Sam was laying out the lore, like for her to become a woman white, she had to have
She
killed them. That's
murdered
it.
them.
But I mean,
Kids.
she had the
husband
husband had
couldn't believe
said. I
it.
think even she said I didn't. Did she say at one point she didn't kill her kids?
I don't think so.
Or she's delusional enough, like she can't accept the fact that she killed her kids. That's why she.
I would just. It was nice that it wasn't like any ambiguous age of like height. It was clearly like these kids were big enough to like.
They're not gonna
That
drown
was
them.
not a
Yeah.
concern. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so it's clearly
It wouldn't have been an accident.
And you
Right.
know, she goes to the stairs, turns around, the kids are right by her, right there, and they say, "Come home," and they grab her
They fucking
and
drag her to
go
hell.
up in flames. Yeah, just goes up in
Straight to
flames, get melting everything,
And then
and
he turns the
then
car.
and then Dean is worried about the car. And if you ruin my car, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. And
So I guess my question here is: these guys figured it out on accident in the course of about 5 minutes. What is Dad's issue
and
here,
the
and
thing
how he
is,
could?
it's not exactly quite that, because Sam was looking for a weakness earlier in the episode. You know,
I know
Dean
they were
goes,
looking,
"Okay,
but
we gotta
but
find the
at no
body, and
point
we
did they
gotta
like
dig up the body."
verbalize.
Right. But Sam says, or she has another weakness. So maybe he had this ticking in his head the second that she said, "Take me home." But
Okay.
that
And if it's something where they're not gonna handhold us, that's fine. But
mhm.
I was just curious if I am not the most attentive when I watch everything. I am more so than most, but just because I actually have to talk about it. But I was curious if I missed something, or if it was like,
Right.
yeah, obviously I don't want to hear a self monologue of, oh well,
Right.
obviously she needs to go
I
into the
think
house.
after it
Right,
happened,
exactly.
Sam said something like, "I found the weakness" or something, right?
Yeah,
It said something
exactly.
like that.
And he slaps him on the back. He says, "You did good,
Yeah.
but
I
if you
think-
messed up my car."
I think it might be one of those things where, like, I think the implied thing there is like,
Did
he
he
was
know
like,
he
fuck
had to
this,
at least go to the house to like dig up the body?
like they were going there to dig up the body. That was his
Yeah,
reason.
they
for
got to
going there.
burn the bones or
Okay,
something.
so he was
right?
going
Isn't that
there
what
no
he
matter
mentioned?
what.
Like, he's like, why you
Yeah.
wanted Dad to burn the bone? Like,
Yeah,
I think he was just like, I'm gonna fucking gun it just to get out of this position,
yeah.
and that's having to do what was in front of him. I don't think he meant to get in the house.
Right. But
I think that was like kind of his like, oh, I found the weakness.
right.
Turns out you let the kids drag her off to hell.
Kids took care of it.
He'll do that.
And then you get, and like I said, you slapped him on the back. He didn't slap him on the back. You get another brotherly thing. He has holes in his shirt. It looked like it's burnt. And the first thing Dean does is smacks him on the chest.
Smacked him on the chest, jerk, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. So you get that brotherly there.
Oh, another nice brotherly moment is after like they have the whole like, I don't even remember what she looks like if I didn't have pictures of her. And slams up against the thing, and then later when Sam goes to apologize, like, no chick flick moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you know, the episode's ending. They're driving home, and Dean is trying to convince Sam to come with him to look for Dad because they find out that he's in Colorado. And Sam says, "Nope, I got to go to this interview." So Dean accepts it and takes him, drops him off. As we said before, the car is damaged. They didn't want to fabricate that. No, the car was damaged from what happened. And he goes inside, and the shower is on when he gets in the room. And he believes that Jess is in that shower. And he lays back and closes his eyes on the bed, and it reverts back to the beginning of the episode. Blood dripping down, but it's on his face this time. He looks up. She's in the same position as his mother was.
Except,
Split
unlike his
open.
mother, her fucking face is just dead. Like, she's been dead for a while.
Right. And
Was that the one that was ghost white?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like very, very pale. I remember one of them was
and she's split open at the across the center, and then fire again. And we talked about it, that part earlier, but it's kind of that lead to the beginning episode, end episode. They correspond to each other. It's a loved one of his that's being affected, and obviously she doesn't make it. They get outside, and it cuts to Sam loading the shotgun and saying they're going to hunt this down, and it's end of the episode.
Hey, cops! Look at
Yeah,
all these guns
exactly.
in this trunk.
Right. And in that
state
moment, you
plates.
can
This
tell
is a
that he's
federal crime
emotional.
right here. We're
Yeah.
hauling these over state lines.
Yeah. He's emotional. It almost seems like he's been crying, but he's wanting to go. And that same moment, I actually, the father and him both leaving right afterwards would make them suspect number one for those cops. In both instances.
Right.
You're questioning those guys immediately.
Maybe in the 80s we let the guy just walk, but this is the 2000s.
This is
Like we've
2000s.
got analytics now.
Right.
I don't know. They're like, that's a nice white boy. He's a Stanford graduate.
That's a
He's
Stanford
fine.
boy.
This is Stanford, California. We can't afford to be seen as
white bias.
Oh, you got to come in.
So yeah, that's the end of the episode. All right. So now, like our final thing, let's talk about what are we looking forward to in the next episode.
Well,
Go ahead and start it,
think
Eric.
Wait, we got one more thing though that we didn't get to. What do we think of the character, like our kind of main characters, and then like also the father? Like those are the kind of the three characters that we know are going to
And
be
the
players
monster
going
of the
forward.
episode.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
kind of.
so all right, so let's go through characters. All right, so let's go around thoughts. All right, first character, we're gonna go with our main character, kind of the guy who carries the show on his back in the beginning. In my mind, is Dean. Okay,
It's Sammy in this episode.
It
it is.
Sammy's the one that carries this. It's about him.
Yeah,
His struggle.
But
It's
every
his
time
storyline.
that he's on,
I don't
every
like
time
that.
that Dean is on screen, it's focusing towards him. For me,
Because-
in my eyes on it.
Because
Because
he's
he's-
better, but
It's because he's hulky and gorgeous doesn't mean you have to focus.
I'm sorry.
Just
You have the male gaze. You
just
gotta
'cause
fix that.
Just because he's beautiful, you want to stare at him.
I thought there would be some debate as to like who the best man in the show is right now, and I don't think there's going to be. Jared, do we have any Sammy love here?
Not for me. No.
No, it's
So
all Dean.
I think the thing is Sam is the emotional through line of the pilot episode, but Dean just comes in full bore. Like, I don't have to get back used. I've been doing this. I've been raw.
Yeah.
I'm out of touch because I've been doing this. I've got my cassettes. I got my car. I got my guns. I got my food, and I like beer. And I want to fuck your girlfriend. Like, he's there. Like, he's a smart ass. Like, he's already all the way into the world. Like,
I
into the
think I
life.
figured it out. So Dean is there for the men watching, and Sammy's probably if we had a woman on the show, she'd be like, "Well, I liked him. He was sensitive and considerate and."
Right.
Well, we haven't actually got Jordan's opinion yet.
It could still hold his own, but it didn't. I don't know. It's just a thought. There's never going to be a woman on this show, probably. but,
yeah.
you know.
No, it's just these guys. Yeah, Dean's kind of like The Rock. He's like, I've been doing this shit for a long time. I know what I'm doing. He's like the driving force for like the monster killing shit. And then Sam's kind of like I don't know, man. I don't want to do that. So like kind of like Jared said, Dean is the driving force for like their objective, but it does focus on Sam and like he's like conflicted about the whole thing.
Right, and but the thing is as the show goes on, you're gonna get episodes where it's more focused on Sam, and then there's more on Dean, and then more on Dad. I think so, and we'll see as that continues on.
Yeah, the dad is the other primary character in the show, and like that we've seen so far that we know is gonna be the thing.
He's
and it's interesting because
all the time. We just don't see him.
Like you get this is how Dad talked to us, this is how Dad treated us, but the only real thing you ever get out of Dad is I was asleep on the couch, and then I gave a baby to a 5-year-old, which is apparently a sin.
In Zach's household.
I just said, for me watching that scene, I was like, oh, there's a fire and you're going to give the baby to the kid to run down the stairs.
This
saying, in the time it would have taken them to get down the stairs, fall down 3 times, get back up, and walk out, I'd have been up and down with a baby in the yard safely.
Right.
To then turn back around and run out anyway 3 seconds later.
So as the series
like
goes
bad
on,
threat assessment as a Marine to me.
Right.
Did they mention he's a Marine in the episode?
It's right on his shirt.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could just get those shirts, but he was a Marine.
One of the brothers mentioned it.
Mentions it with the journal.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
mentions it with the journal.
Because of the coordinates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, only Marines know coordinates, Eric.
Yeah, those 3.
Not the
us dumbass army men are just.
You guys just point, don't you?
Yeah, well, we actually just have some Marines that carry us there. It's a lot easier.
So, yeah, those 3 are going to be our main characters, I think, going forward. I think that as this show goes on, some of us will probably get more attached to certain characters than others. But as this pilot, we're dipping our toes in the water, as they say, to get it started.
There is one last thing that Jordan mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what do we think of the monster of the week?
Yeah, every monster I want to review. Yeah.
She, in my mind, that was the scariest part, was her first attack that we see on camera. It is something that is, I think, gave a general scare. Your scariest part, Eric, had to do with that. I guess you could say there's almost 2 monsters because of what happens to the wife and girlfriend, but we have no idea. And they mentioned that they have no idea as to what did both of them. But for the woman in white, and it's actually, I think it's like a Hispanic or Mexican legend, actually. I read that somewhere today. But it's
it comes from like white people coming over and destroying it. It doesn't really matter.
But it is I like that. It's a good one to start on. I feel like it is.
I think it's a perfect tone setter for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great way to put it, because in my mind, it felt a little truncated, you had to force it in. You got 43 minutes to establish main characters, running lines of the show, plot, also this thing, how we're going to move forward, and everything to get a baseline going. They did a very good job at squeezing that piece in, because it really was
like, you got about 25 minutes for the mystery of the show, and then you have to have the main story on the other sides of it to bracket it.
And on either side of that 20-25 minutes, 10 of it to maybe even 15 was mostly just brothers, which is probably mostly what this show is us seeing the brothers interact and watching them do their thing. Like, she had maybe 5 minutes of screen time, it seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 8. And it was great for the parts it was in. It felt like it ended a little quickly, but I also get why you had to do that, because you're squeezing things in. That being said, for the future ones, the way they set that one up, I've got the bar set pretty high. I expect the next episodes to be great now that they've gotten this intro stuff out of the way a little bit, and they can start digging into things a little more. Overarching plot wise versus like the weekly stuff. My note at the end was, I'm in. I definitely, going from someone who had almost zero knowledge of the show or any preconceived notions, this could have been an absolute chore to me to watch this. But after the first,
I was kind of hoping
I
it
was
was
legitimately interested in what's coming next. So
I was hoping it was gonna be 15 seasons of you just fucking hating this.
Just misery.
let's not discount that. That could
It could still
that could
happen.
turn on a
Yeah,
dime
we're
here.
only one episode in, so
If it turns into CW sets and
Oh,
you know,
boy.
garbage shit, I'll struggle.
The Flash.
And
I will tell you that this show will go through some evolutions. It will never get that level. Like the folks who are taking, there's a season or two, not back to back, that kind of have that feeling where like, okay, what are we doing with the show right now? And then they recorrect.
But honestly, episode 1, I thought the quality was very good for a pilot. Things kept moving.
Pilot.
It was certainly enough for me not knowing anything about it to say, yeah, I'm gonna watch another episode. I'll give this several more tries. If they missed one early, they're gonna get a buy on it, because I'll give it a shot in to see if it continues, it's gonna get a good run out of me.
So I'm gonna quickly interject. Eric Kripke is the guy who ran the show.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the guy who is doing The Boys.
I knew the name looked familiar, and I was gonna look it up, but I didn't want to. But I recognized Kripke.
I think he's here for the first 5 seasons.
Okay.
Which he knew the story for the first 5 seasons. Like, he had it plotted out. He knew what the arcs were going to be.
Cool.
Jordan?
I'd give The Monster a 7 out of 10. I think she was pretty good. Like you guys mentioned, I mean, it was for what they were working with and the time they had for the first episode. Like, I mean, it kind of set the stakes of like what to expect. Like, this lady murdered her children and then herself, and now she's killing people that are unloyal. So I think it's kind of a good starting point for like where they can go from there, because I mean, it's so broad. Like, you can just have a serial killer, you could have more suicide things, and like, it's obviously like a supernatural, like, ghost like being. So
That
I think
Every
it's
time
like
someone says supernatural, we need to have a catchphrase.
supernatural.
you take a shot.
to take a
There
shot.
it is.
my
There you
God.
go. There you go. But yeah, I think it was a good.
And they're dead.
And they
The
died.
audience is dead.
They died 10 minutes into the first episode. What the?
Never saw them again.
They only released one episode. But I think it was a great starting point. Like, it just really sets the scene for what to expect, because we have this overarching like mystery with the mom and the dad, like catching whatever killed their mom and Tyra from Friday Night Lights. I don't remember her name. I don't remember her name in this show. I sure it's Tyra.
That's all that you need.
But yeah,
They never even treated her like a person. She was just a
No.
piece of ass that Sam was fucking.
really, that's really all she did.
Really felt like she was counting on him to go to law school so she could fulfill
Yeah.
her lifelong goals of
Banking on that.
not working that hard.
Getting canceled on the
Kind of
first
seemed like
episode.
Stanford was the last big thing for her, and then him being a lawyer was the next big thing for her.
Zach already kind of gave his opinion on it. What is your thoughts kind of on where things are going? Like, you think you're like in a good place going forward on the show? Like, you've obviously watched 5 to 15 seasons of it.
You know, I guess what I'm looking forward to, because I mean, I've seen a bunch of it, but I don't remember a whole lot of like specifics. I remember like general ideas. I'm looking forward more to the dynamic between the brothers is what I'm really interested in, because I think it's a really good. I think they have really good chemistry, the actors, and I think the idea that like there's this one kind of like badass brother, and then there's one that's kind of like a sissy. I think it's
Except the sissy kicks the shit out of him earlier.
exactly like the sissy's not a sissy, but he's kind of like a sissy in like he's You know what I mean? Like he's the thinker, and the other one's just like, I'm just gonna jump into this fucking river, you know. So I think that's a really cool dynamic that I'm really looking forward to. I'm not really interested in the scary bits, so that's not exactly.
I imagine this is how Jordan was when stuff was happening on screen.
We might need you to live stream the watchings of the episodes too, just your reaction.
I remember
if we could get
about
that copyright, that would be great.
When I first watched the show, I remember there were some very scary episodes that I did not appreciate. So I look forward to those.
You know, you're talking about the supernatural things, but it makes me think of an X-Files thing. Like, one of the best episodes of X-Files ever is the Cannibal House. And they think it's going to be a supernatural thing, and then it's just like Scully and Mulder dealing with the fact that, like, oh, we're dealing with a bunch of fucking crazy redneck cannibals. Yeah. And they're, like, stuck in, like, a saw house.
God, that's yes. The inbred family.
Yes, and it's fucking terrifying.
Well,
it is not a... There is no fucking...
I've never seen that episode, so I can't...
You know why? Nothing if you alien, nothing paranormal. It is just...
If you watch it on TV or on syndication, they don't air that episode. It aired once, and then it was only on the VHS and DVD sets, and that's it.
Wow.
I saw it on Netflix when I watched my through. It is... I mean, I think it's a pretty well-known episode there. It's like, this is...
Like,
a phenomenal episode.
But Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, it's
but there are a few episodes like that in
we get a few in here that kick it up a notch and like go past your...
Because, you know, like most shows, they kind of ebb and weave. Sometimes, like, there's some scarier ones or some lighter ones, and then there's those ones that just, like, let's crank her up a notch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna say anything because I don't really want to ruin anything for Zach, but they pay homage to a lot of other shows and movies with some of the things that they do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see that in this first season quite a bit, actually.
I guess let me ask this question here since we're getting started. What did this air on? Was this was a...
It was originally on the WB and then the CW because it's been around that long. Oh, wow. It is no... So I know you're worried about like the supernatural.
I'm very worried
because like you're thinking like the way like the Flashes and the Riverdales and
the CGI stuff,
right?
The sets, just
they
look like I made them.
No, they
that's my problem.
They somehow managed. Here's the thing: is because they've been around for so long and it was such a money maker for them. Like
they got the funding.
They got the funding. Like they were like.
The whole time watching the show, I think the only reason I thought it was on a CW show was just from remembering commercials from years ago.
Yeah.
Watching the show, I thought I was like, was this broadcast? It looked very quality, especially for a pilot. It doesn't always get, the money it necessarily needs. And I mean, there weren't these guys weren't household names coming into this, so. And I don't know if any
they have their private jets.
Yeah. So I was not unimpressed with any of that. I mean, the car stuff, those shots. I doubt there's any show from when this aired 2005 that would look real today to me if I were to watch them. But that was the only thing where I was a little bit like, that doesn't look great. Yeah. But I'm also gonna. It's not important.
That show ended because the primary actors were ready for this show to end.
Right. I mean, it was 15 seasons, so that's quite a long time. So
also, by the time you get to the end of the show, you're like, there's nothing really much else you can do.
Right, exactly.
Did it recently end, or when was it?
About a year ago.
2019. I checked the Netflix thing. It said 2019 was the.
But the last season took a while to come out.
I think. Okay. 05 to it's 15 seasons.
There's some seasons that took more than a year to come through.
Okay, so did it start in like 2000 then?
2005.
Okay. Well, 15 season 05 to 19, that's average in a year.
Yeah.
And
but Jared,
I'm a big hater on the CW shows. Like I hate most of them cuz like The Flash, like dog shit. Like, I hate them. But when I watched this show, I never had a problem. I never thought it was like
Right.
overly
Right.
cheesy. You know?
Trash.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think they do a pretty good job.
So, Jared, your thoughts on things kind of going forward?
Like I've said before, I only got to mid season 2, so it's like I'm starting to watch it for the first time again. I mean, bits and pieces will probably come back, to my memory, but that brotherly dynamic, I think, is the one thing that's going to pretty much, be, at least for this first season, a very consistent thing, and they're gonna dive deeper with that. I mean, behind Jordan, I'm probably the second biggest scaredy cat on this thing, so I'm not really totally looking forward to the monsters or supernatural things. There's another shot, but it's those things just that brotherly dynamic. That's what I think is going to drive the show for a bit, at least this first season, and just get behind that and enjoy that.
I'm assuming to go 15 years, that's probably the whole show, is those two probably put it on their shoulder. I mean, it definitely seems like those two probably threw it on their shoulders. They definitely can. I can tell from these that there's a chemistry there that can build, and that they want to have fun with it. So
yep.
So on my side of things, because I've seen it, two things I'm looking forward to on this dose. First is just seeing you guys kind of come through it, because I know where it goes. I know the main beats, and we get into the later seasons, I know them even more intimately because they're more fresh. But I'm super just excited to kind of see what you guys think as things progress and ebb and weave and go ebb and weave, ebb and flow. I think that's the actual phrase if you speak English.
Close enough.
Bob and weave.
Pop and weave.
Hustle and flow.
Hustle and flow.
Duck, dive, and
Tango and
dodge.
Cash.
Dodge. 5D's a dodgeball. And the other one is, I can basically tell you about maybe in the first 3 seasons, I can probably recall top of mind on hand maybe 6 episodes. Most of them are season premieres and season finales.
Yeah.
It gets better.
It's just been so long since I've watched it.
Oh, okay.
Like when I see it, I'll probably be like, oh, that's right, that's this episode. But like right now, I can tell you some generic plot points that are going to happen for the first 3 seasons.
For those storylines.
And that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other comments?
I think we're ready to wrap it up.
I think we got it.
Gonna air these bi-weekly at first.
Man.
Probably try weekly, but we shall see.
We can air them on whatever schedule you want, Jordan. But I think we need to try to be filming these once a week just to keep a.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think we should try to film weekly. I think we film weekly at first, and then we release them bi-weekly, so we have a bit of a bulk built up.
Yeah.
And then that gives some editing time, and if we end up having folks like subscribe, that's probably something we should say. Jordan, where are we going to be on?
Well, we're gonna start on YouTube for now. The Spotify thing, I need to figure that out because I think we have to have a distributor.
What about
The
iTunes?
one thing that I kind of want to say is, I don't know. I don't know if like one of us needs to be like the almost like timekeeper on this, because if it's a 43-minute show and we're talking about it for an hour and a half, that's gonna be tough.
Listen,
I think we need to try and minimize it to
the next
maximum
show,
35 minutes.
Nah, the next episode we're gonna do, the next show we're gonna do is gonna be Avatar: The Last Airbender, and each 22-minute episode will be getting a full 2-hour dissection. And when we go to do the Lord of the Rings movies,
was this show? We'll keep. Well, let me tell you guys this. So if we do an episode a week, there are 327 episodes. That is 6 years.
Oh my god.
Okay.
That is
Here's
6
the thing.
years of our life.
We're gonna start
12.
weekly, but then we're gonna start picking it up later on, right?
Like what?
Like
That's
a
the
Tuesday,
idea.
Thursday. Yeah.
Like,
two or
look,
three times a
we're
week.
gonna
Once
we're
we get
gonna
rolling.
we're gonna record 1 week for a while, and then there might be some times where like, oh, this is a 2-parter. Maybe we'll do a
Both
2 episodes, and we'll do 2 episodes.
Yeah, there you go.
Or if it, if it's a lull in the, it's like, oh, we got 3 monsters of the week back to back to back. We'll watch all 3. We'll film all 3, and we can even just squeeze those into an episode.
One thing I will say though is this show has a tendency to be like, oh, this is just a regular monster of the week.
Yeah,
like you've had for the last few weeks. All of a sudden, like they're just suddenly a boom major plot point that's like big storyline element that's like, oh, this needs discussion. We need to talk about it. But we'll kind of offline. We could kind of talk about some things we could
We'll
trim
feel it
off
out.
this.
We'll feel it out.
So let's wrap this up then.
Yeah. So I would say, just as a heads up, the name of the next episode 2 of season 1, is Wendigo.
I wonder what that's going to be about.
I'm guessing fairies.
Dingoes cry. Do we need to have a sign off? Is that something we need?
Probably. Fuck you, motherfuckers! Go.
All right. Well,
That sounds pretty good, right?
It's a spooky ghost.
It's a spooky ghost.
It's a spooky ghost.
With the ectoplasm.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us on our first episode of
Yes.
Supernatural Bros. I am Jared.
I'm Eric, brought to your sponsor, Busch Light.
Zach, I am not yet sponsored by Busch Light.
I'm Jordan. I'll be editing this for 3 weeks.
Hell yeah. Thank you all.
Like and subscribe.
All right. That's a good edit.
Please God,
We
like
need
and
it.
give us a point to live.
You're watching this in 2026. Find the Patreon. We need money. And actually, if you can send us water, we need water too, because it is in desperate need of everyone. If you have some, let us know.
We will. Zach's on his 7th child.
We'll
We'll
do
trade
it.
one of them.